Everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Debt Life with me, Chad Van Horn. Today's topic is Tales from the Crypt, Creditors Nightmares. So before we jump into that, there's a series out there called The Squid Games. I'm sure many of you have seen it. Number one ever on Netflix. Over 100 million people have watched it at this point. And believe it or not, the underlying message behind it is what people will do when they're in debt or when they're desperate. So they even talk about bankruptcy in there. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I'm going to have a couple specials. I'm going to write a couple articles about it. And we'll probably do a Facebook Live event about it eventually as well. So you've been warned. It's 9 episodes. It's very binge worthy. Gabrielle and I knocked it out in a weekend. There are parts that are a little gruesome. So be ready to cover your eyes every once in a while. So, all right, now let's jump into it. So, creditor nightmares, unfortunately, we hear about them every day. We do over 500 consultations a month. That averages out to over 6,000 consultations a year. So, if it's happened, we've pretty much heard about it at this point, although creditors do surprise us every once in a while and we hear something new. So, one of the newest things that I heard, a $3,000 credit card from years and years ago ended up getting a judgment against this client. The interest built up over time, and they put a lien on my client's investment property and actually moved to foreclose on that investment property. So a $3,000 credit card that you weren't really worried about ends up putting you into foreclosure. We were able to stop the foreclosure with a bankruptcy prior to the sale of the investment property, which would have been devastating for this client because everybody knows at foreclosure sales, you don't get full market value. And then they ended up having to pay the judgment over a 36 to 60 month period through a Chapter 13 plan. So at least they got in here quick enough. But again, do not ignore those judgments out there. They're good for a long period of time. Another example, we had a judgment creditor who was coming up on the 20-year mark of a judgment's good in Florida for 20 years, and then you have to renew it for 10 more within that 20-year period. And if you don't, then it loses its status as a lien on property and whatnot. Judgment, the creditor actually sold the judgment right before the 20 years, and the new creditor came in, renewed it for 10 years, and got a lien on our client's property that we ended up having to negotiate off because they ended up doing a wage garnishment. So nobody wants to work 5 days a week and only get paid for 4 of them. And actually, it's less than that whenever 25% of your wages are taken off. So just be really, really careful. Again, when it comes to these judgments, man, there's a huge market out there. It's a billion-dollar industry of companies that just purchase these judgments. So they can get a judgment for 10,000. There's debt buyers out there that'll buy it for $500, and then they'll try to collect on the full $10,000 amount. I get questions all the time. Will they just settle for the $500? Absolutely not. They will not, because that's not where their business is. Because obviously, a lot of this debt is going to be discharged in bankruptcy, will go unpaid forever. So if they have somebody that actually has assets, they're going to try to collect that 100%. And if they see that they're not going to get the 100%, then obviously they will negotiate down. So if you have old debt out there, do not ignore it. Take care of it now, because they're going to come back at the worst time when you're looking to buy a house, when you're have an investment property or anything like that. As you'll see on the right there, there's a chat. So welcome again to the chat. If you have any questions going throughout this, please put them up the chat. I'll answer them as they come up. The new cool software that I have automatically will post them. Hopefully, I'll stay on top of them. I'll try to pay attention to that over there. Another big thing that's happening right now is something called social security overpayment. You may have heard recently in the news, actually, Social Security, if you're on Social Security or if you're receiving Social Security income, you're actually getting a raise. It's going up about 5% due to inflation, which makes sense because inflation is up 5%. So take a look for that. You're going to get a bump coming up next year on your Social Security payments. But if you are on Social Security, remember, you can only make a certain amount of money. It's somewhere around 14 to 15,000 for an individual. Usually, if you make above that, then there's something called Social Security overpayment. Many clients dealing with that right now. The problem with Social Security overpayment is the Social Security Administration does not let you know right away. So this can go on for years, and then you owe $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of overpayments. So what they'll do is they will offset your Social Security benefits to make up for that, meaning they'll take a portion of your Social Security benefits. They can even, if you're expecting a tax refund, they can take that. Any government benefits that you would receive, they can take back. Had a client that almost ended up homeless because they couldn't make their rent payment. We ended up filing bankruptcy for that client, and we were able to stop the garnishment, wipe out the Social Security overpayment, and they were able to make their rent payment. Another huge win. Shout out to our litigation team down at the State Department. Steve went to an administrative hearing with the Social Security Administration. There was a ton of money that was owed to because of an overpayment. We were able to prove that they actually calculated it wrong, and everything was discharged. Everything was taken care of without the necessity of filing bankruptcy, because obviously we don't want to rush into bankruptcy if there's better ways to handle it. So those are just a couple of the most recent stories. Obviously, if you're dealing with any of these issues, you can contact us at any time. We do free consultations. We're open 7 days a week. Right now is a great time to come to the office because not only do we have the Starbucks coffee, but we have Swedish Fish, we have Sour Patch Kids, we have Blow Pops. So it's a great time to get your candy fix in because of Halloween coming up in about 11 days. So if you're nearby, swing by our office and have some coffee and have some sweets. All right, so now we're going to talk about different ways creditors are hunting people down right now. It really is crazy, especially in this data-driven society that we have. The amount of data that creditors will have on you, even if you're pretty much off the grid. If you open up a bank account, if any credit activity happens, they actually get notice of that. So when they get notice of that, what do? Even when you start a new job, because sometimes when you start a new job, the new job will run your credit. They'll get notice of that, and when they get notice of that, then they go in and they garnish your wages at the new job. Open up a new bank account. The reason they get the notification of that, once you put the money in there, open the new bank account, they'll try to seize that bank account. And a big thing as well, and we got our first question. So I think our comment assistant's going to come up here and help. So we're going to go to that right after I talk about that. Remember that if you have a bank account with somebody that you owe money to, so if you have a Bank of America credit card and your bank account's with Bank of America, they have the right to offset money in that account, meaning that if you default on the credit card, they can just take the money out of the account. That happens a lot more with credit unions. So just be very, very careful. All right. So a couple questions here. So Yasmin, is it legal to garnish my son's account if I'm listed as an authorized user and you opened his account? The short answer is possibly. It depends how old your son is. If your son is a minor, minors in Florida can actually not own property, so it technically is your account, and they can absolutely take that money out of there if it's your account. So just be careful with it. If it's their account and they're 18 and older and you're just an authorized user, they can freeze the account, but then you can go in and show that it's not your money. Next question. Oh, they're coming up quick. All right. Danielle, if there was a lien placed on my home, and how would you know if there's a lien placed on your home, and how would that affect me? So the good thing is if it's your home and it's homestead protected, meaning you live there, it's an ineffective lien. So what that means is they cannot foreclose on the property. They cannot stop you from selling the property and using those proceeds to purchase another homestead. If you really want to find out, you can do a lien search or a title search, which is common. If you do a public record search, that should come up as well. Meaning look at the records within the county that you live in. Another question, Shayla. My account was levied, but all my savings are actually my dad's retirement deposits as I manage his expenses. Can I get that money back? That's a tough scenario. The short answer is yes. Once again, you got to claim exemptions. So you got to go through the exemption process. You got to show all the money that came in is your dad's retirement deposits. And in that scenario, actually, we would be representing your dad and you, or more specifically, your dad. So you got to get in there quickly. You have 20 days to claim that exemption, and you can object to it. It is a process. A judge will make the decision, and until you get it released by the judge, those funds will be frozen. Laverne, how does modifying my mortgage inside of a bankruptcy affect my existing loan? So basically, any modification is a new loan. So it's a new agreement with the lender. So whether you do it inside the bankruptcy or outside, that's going to be a new loan. We recommend paying the loan directly outside of Chapter 13 bankruptcies because there is a trustee fee on top of that. So once we get the loan modification, we do pay direct. That saves you 10% a month. So that answers that question. Cindy, never heard of Social Security overpayment. Where can I find out what the max you can make as a couple? That's a great question. Actually, if you go to ssa.gov, you can go there, and that'll show you exactly what the max income you can have. Most people don't realize that there is a max income that you can have, or they will offset your Social Security. So be very careful. I didn't know that either before dealing with these issues, and we realized that it is a really um, big population of people that are dealing with this issue. So that's why we added this to things that we can help out. Especially, Florida, we have a lot of retirees that need that Social Security money. So we wanted to make sure that we could take care of them. All right, getting a lot of questions. Thank you guys for participating. Uh, Dustin, how long can head of household exemptions hold off a creditor? So head of household, basically, if you are supporting a dependent and provide more than 51% support for that dependent, and you have proof of that, your wages would be exempt. Um, that exemption holds on as long as you're head of household, and as long as you have that dependent, and you can prove that you're providing more than 51% for a dependent. So just be careful, because I just had a client actually this week who didn't realize, they thought they won whenever the judge about 5 to 10 years ago determined that he was head of household, and his wages were exempt. He won that hearing. He thought that dismissed the judgment, went and made the judgment go away. The judgment's still there, and they can come back 5 years later and do it again. You have to claim exemption again and go through that process, and they can keep doing it. The other thing that the creditors are utilizing right now is what's called the fact information sheet under Florida Civil Procedure. I think it's 1.506. There's a form that they send you that you're actually required by law to fill out, that lists all your assets, list all your income, and different things, so that you're putting everything out there for the creditor to see if they can collect. So again, they can collect against your car, they can collect against investment real estate, bank accounts, any non-exempt property they can collect, and even exempt property they can try to garnish, and then you actually have to claim your exemption and go through that hearing. So again, it's just not a good way to live if you have a judgment out there, because they can really make your life difficult. Even if you end up winning the exemption argument, they can freeze things and make some of your checks bounce and different things. So just be really careful when it comes to that. All right, so moving on. These are tales from the crypt. So we're talking about old debts coming back. Obviously, it's a Halloween theme as well. Um, One of the biggest things that we're seeing right now is, since the eviction moratorium has ended, there's a ton of evictions going on right now. And remember, the eviction process is normally a two-step process. One, it gets you out of your house, and that's relatively quickly. And then two, the landlord moves for a money judgment against you that can sit out there. So don't ignore that money judgment. Most people, when you go through an eviction, obviously it's a stressful time in your life. You're concentrating on finding a new place for you and your family to live, especially with an eviction on your record. It's very difficult to sometimes find another apartment or get qualified. But remember that there could be a money judgment that follows that, and you need to take care of that, or the next step would be a garnishment or some other collection activity. Another thing that recently ended, the mortgage foreclosure moratorium has ended, so we're seeing more foreclosure sales. Act before that foreclosure sale goes through. At least once a week, we have people that come in after the sale has gone through, and usually that's too late. In special circumstances, you are able to get the home back. If you have equity in that property, make sure that you act before. And when I say act, come see me before that property is sold. After it's sold, we have limited options. If you had equity in the property and it's sold for a lower amount, you just lost all of that equity in your property. Don't let that happen to you. come in early and let's talk about it. Another big thing that's coming through, the student loan moratorium is ending in February. You may have gotten notification from Navient or your servicer. Also, many of the servicers like Navient are no longer going to be servicing loans. So there's going to be a huge transition when it comes to services, student loans, federal student loans. Hopefully, something comes through in this legislation that's coming through Congress. We'll see. I'm hopeful, but I'm optimistic, but I just don't see anything moving right now. Hopefully, something comes through that'll help people out. So we're about 15 minutes into the show. If you have any other questions, make sure that you're posting them on the right. Oh, we just got a new one. Gina, can I include my student loans in bankruptcy? So in every bankruptcy, you have to include all your debts. I think what you mean are your student loans dischargeable in bankruptcy? The general rule is they are not dischargeable in bankruptcy. But if you meet a certain standard that it creates an undue hardship on you and your family, there is a way to discharge a student loan. So that's really a fact-specific argument that we would have to make. So make sure that if you have questions about that, you come see me and we can certainly talk about it. All right, let's see what else we need to go over here. Oh, a big thing about the people that are coming out of forbearance for your mortgages. Make sure that you're working on those loan modifications or getting those payments up to date um, before they put you into foreclosure, because it's not automatic that they're going to modify your loan. Also, I feel like I talk about this at every episode. If you are looking to buy people's homes in foreclosure, make sure that you're buying the first mortgage. Don't go out and buy these association liens and different things, because then you're going to end up being foreclosed on, and you can lose a ton of money. Had somebody lose $100,000. Felt awful for them. If you're investing in these distressed assets, be really careful. Just if you haven't done it in the past, either get with a mentor, somebody that's done it in the past, get with a lawyer that knows it. I don't I don't like that industry personally, so I don't help people through that. But just don't lose your money, because it's really awful whenever you think you're buying a condo for $100,000 that's worth $300,000, and then you realize there's a mortgage on that property for $300,000 or $400,000. So you really now have bought something that's valueless. So just be careful with that. Got another question. Marcus, is it better to modify inside or outside the bankruptcy? Short answer is yes. Modify any way possible. It really depends on the lender. If the lender's organized and easy to work with, we modify a ton of loans outside of bankruptcy. The good thing about the Chapter 13, or what they call MMM, mortgage modification mediation process, is there is a mediator involved. There's a portal, there's a standard that goes through where the lender can't say you didn't give us these documents. And it's really about bringing the parties together. So a couple more questions, and then actually we're going to wrap up. This was great. Dustin, my house is beyond saving. Can I surrender? What are the consequences? So when you know that you can't afford your house, if you have equity in the house, obviously the best thing you can do is sell it. If you don't, you can look at a short sale. If your house is underwater, meaning you owe more than what it's worth, make sure that you just don't walk away, because then there's those dreaded deficiency judgments that come against you, meaning they sell the property and then whatever's left over, they get a judgment against you personally. So just be careful with that. But yes, you certainly can sell the property either as a normal sale or do a short sale when it comes to that. Can you sell, Marcus, can you sell your house in bankruptcy, and then what happens to that money? Yes, you can sell your house in bankruptcy. If it's your homestead, you can actually utilize that money. It's exempt to purchase another homestead. If it were an investment property, then that money would go to your creditors. So just be very careful about that. All right. All right. Well, I had more things to go through, but I like to keep this to 20 minutes. So we're gonna use that for next episode. So remember, every 2 weeks we're here. Thank you guys for participating today. If you have any other questions, of course, you can reach out to me at any time. Also, go to our website, vanhornlawgroup.com, which was recently just updated. We're going to be moving to a new office in a couple weeks. So you guys definitely come check that out. Again, we do free consultations 7 days a week. We have offices in Miami, Orlando, and our main office in Fort Lauderdale, but we service the entire state. There's 2 books available. The Debt Life, which I have a copy right here. If you want to reach out to me, you can get a free copy of that. Also, go to thedebtlife.com if you want to purchase a copy. And we also have books that explain the bankruptcy process in Florida. Thanks again for watching this episode of The Debt Life. I certainly hope it was helpful to you. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook for some fun information and pictures of Chuckles, of course. And I hope you guys have a great week. Great Halloween. Thank you, guys.